So, boy, it's your boy Bitz N Bobz, and we are here with another episode of Bitz N Bobz meets Mayowa, one of the third of Stoppage Time TV host. Omanija, if you understand that one, you understand that one.
Come on.
Mayowa, how you doing, man? How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. How are you?
I'm cool. I'm thank you. I'm very grateful for you coming on. I know you're a busy guy, family man, so I appreciate it all, man. I appreciate it all. Seriously, man.
Anytime, man.
So, bro, like, tell me about yourself, man. Like, how's the week been so far? You know, I know it's only Tuesday, but weekend okay. Chelsea won, so happy.
Yes, it's been a good week. I mean, it's that lead up to Christmas where it's kind of like, get excited, do everything, etc. At the same time, we're about to leave lockdown, so there's a bit of extra excitement there. And football's back, of course, like so grassroots, so everyone can get back into that. The week itself's been all right. Chelsea performed, did what they need to do. We're playing now. I think we're still winning. So it's been a good week and can't complain, man. Live, well, healthy. So yeah. So it's all good, man. How about you?
Good. To be honest, bro, Scotland's completely different. Where I live in Scotland, we're in tier 3. So that means I basically can't really leave my area. It's similar to lockdown. I can't go into places. There's other places that are tier 4. It's now been made a law. It's illegal to go into these places without exempt. So people aren't just going to get fined. They're going to get charged. So
oh, crap.
Yeah. So if you don't have any business being somewhere, you just stay at home, boy.
Yeah.
You know. And it's tough, though, because, obviously I work from home.
Yeah.
I've worked from home since March. So, like, just to even go out, exercise is quite cool. But now to socialize, it's quite tough. Yeah. But I'm just looking at all my guys, the WhatsApp chats, as you probably have yourself. You know, they keep it going. So, we touched on football, and you said grassroots. So, do you play football as well, or?
Yeah. So, I mean, this year after having my little one, like the way I've played has been. Thank you, man. It's been not as full on, but typically I play for like a Saturday team, etc. Right now I'm kind of like playing for a church team. It's good fun, but it's still competitive. And then probably in the new year, maybe introduce myself to that Saturday style again. But I've always played. I've always been involved in the playing side as well. Like just always enjoyed it. I've always been somewhat all right as well. So, and just it's that form of escapism. You know, a lot of people don't just play football because they love football. They play football because it allows them to get fit or just takes them away from sort of everything after a long week. You can just play football and just let everything out. So yeah, just that side of it's been it's always been important to me. So of course, when you have periods like this where you can't do that, you can't go to gym and you can't really do anything, it's a little bit like, I need to find another way to
new release.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's good to you. That's testament to you, especially trying to stay active. And I think that's going to be a segue. And do you know what's funny? Because I watch you on Stoppage Time TV. So, like, it's funny because when you guys are talking, you always say, so that's a good way to segue. So when I look at that, I've actually started hearing myself saying that now. So Mayo, it's a good way to segue, right? Mental health, right?
Yeah.
Not just mental health, but Black mental health. People that are watching, people that watch this back, me and Mayo are from the same country originally. You know, we probably grew up in the same culture. And I can say for myself that mental health wasn't identified, wasn't spoken about, There's a thing I think about the Black community, especially the Black male, is that we are too proud to ask for help, or we're too proud to say we're not okay, And so to really, I mean, what's your thoughts on it? Have you had any, let's not say episodes, but have you had any? Okay, lockdown. There you go. You said about, you needed a new release and so on.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself that it should be something we should talk about? And then if it is, why don't we?
It's definitely. Am I picking up in your background, or am I right?
No, you're okay. You're okay.
Okay, cool. For me, it's definitely something that needs to be taught to a lot more. And I think that the generation now, it's becoming okay to talk about these things, which is amazing. But I don't think it's just what I put it down to, right, is stuff that's a mental capacity, mental health. At the same time as well, I'll put into that invisible disabilities.
Yep.
All of that stuff which is not on the surface. A lot in our culture gets kind of swept on the rug because it's almost like, well, because you can't see it, you then have to act like it's not there.
Yeah.
So I would have seen loads of cases growing up where people might have kind of like ADHD or they might have autism or whatnot. And for so long, it's kind of not left treated or anything because it's like, oh no, there's nothing wrong there. If you think about mental health, especially being a black male, sometimes there's this stigma that it's not manly or it's not right to say there's nothing wrong with you. It's like even now, I could go into one of my group chats. It's probably better now, but I could go into a group chat and I could say, "Oh, hope everyone's well. Hope you're good." For a long time, it would have been like, "Of course, man's good." Like, why you asking anything? Or if you ask someone like your group, is that how is everyone feeling? Like now we're in a space where people might be like, you know what, I'm not feeling too great. Or a lot of people would have to be like, you know what, no, I'm fine. Why would you ask how I am? That for so long, I feel like maybe because of generations before us who have those sort of preconceptions of how they have to behave. It's just how people behave for so long. During this lockdown, it's been so interesting looking. I've seen a lot of people online do like self-assessments or go for assessments and then say stuff like, I've been diagnosed with ADHD and I didn't know this for my whole life, and it explains so much of my behaviors. Or I went to go and see a therapist and it was really good for me. Like it wasn't like what everyone said. And it's just because of those misconceptions where people say like, oh, you don't need to talk to anyone, you're fine, or oh, there's nothing wrong with you, it's just in your head, etc. It breeds this sort of bad sort of space and void because the longer you take to fight your demons or to seek advice or to help or to speak about things, you just kind of contain stuff. And it goes on and on and on and on. So we were talking before and you mentioned how you were playing football and everything and you got your contract and everything. So for me, when I was about 16, I finally got into like a club setup. So I finally got into Luton after I actually sneaked to do a men's trial. And then, I sneaked to do a men's trial. I was too young. It was one of those, it was trial for Luton where it was like an open trial, men's trial.
Okay. I
went down, performed well and everything. And then they're like, oh, you're really good, but you just look a bit small. And I was like, well, I'm actually 16. And they're like, really? Okay, cool. So they put me there and everything. Didn't end up getting any scholar or anything because it was like too late. I was picking up injuries. Then I had hip surgery when I got to like my first or second year uni. And through that, I went through a phase where for a year before surgery, I couldn't play football. Yes, after surgery, I couldn't play football. But in that time, so much was happening. I didn't have a release, but I couldn't speak to anyone about it. I couldn't really vocalize how I felt. And in having gone through that, it was like, okay, it's actually there's nothing wrong with talking to people how you feel. Like, cause you build up so much and you don't have a release, or you don't have anyone to talk to, and you miss these certain things in your life. And then it's like, like what's wrong? There is actually something wrong here, but you're not acknowledging it. It's that elephant in the room. And I feel like maybe with the generations and how everything's changing now and the freedom of information where people are actually telling you there's these things that you can do. You don't have to just sit down. Social media is there. There's loads of people online that specialize in these things and they're giving away free gems at that as well. People are starting to realize that, there is stuff that we need to acknowledge, especially within our community that we haven't spoken about for a long time.
And do you think, you being a young father, fathers, right? And my wife always reminds me, like when it's when it's raining outside, I'll say, right, we're not going out, and she'll say to me, shut up, put a jacket on, because when we were younger, you were told to read your book, or you play PlayStation or Nintendo 64 or whatever, So I have a duty of care to myself to break that mold, to illustrate to my son that, go do what you want. If you want to go out and stuff, and like we're talking about mental health, and I think, I don't know what you think about this, but I really think, right, that in our culture, we are not supported enough as males. And I know people might say, oh, what do you mean? But when I say that, I mean that we are expected to take on the mantle of being the man in the house, to help if you have siblings, to help your mom. Come on. How many times does an auntie or an uncle say, Are you looking after your mom? Do you know what I'm trying to say? And it's like, we do have a duty, and now, we've got another generation, our kids, and it's like, I want to change. There's no manual to being a parent, obviously not.
Yeah.
But like, do you feel like you're taking a different approach? I know your son's young, but do you think mentally, because now you're releasing a different new mechanism,
Yeah.
You have this amazing miracle walking about, crawling, crying, booing,
Yeah, for me, it's I do feel it, and I think, like, without going too far into it, with me, I didn't have my dad around, so like, it was one of those things where I never had an example of what like a father would be.
Yeah.
Like, I had uncles, I had like people that played key parts, but I didn't have like a day-to-day sort of reference as what that would be. So I didn't have any sort of preconceptions of how, okay, this is how things are, this is how things done. My whole thing was, I just want to do a situation where myself and my partner, God bless her, can raise a child and ensure that he's not only a good citizen, but he kind of enjoys life and fulfills his own purpose, wherever it may be at his time. And that kind of took a lot of pressure off myself. And what I've benefited from anyway is, because it's been a lot of this year, we've been working from home. I spent a lot of this year on furlough before kind of switching career, family, everything. I just got to spend a lot of undivided time with him. So like, literally since he was born, we've been stuck together. Like, because it's been furlough as well, like, I can't really drop him off at his going to it. It's just been us two, and that for me was really beneficial. Because another thing about, you mentioned like males within our society, but I just think it's definitely within our society, but in general, there's so many societal norms that we're told that we have to fulfill. So you have to be the provider in the house, you have to be this, you have to be strong, you have to be kind of like the foundation of a family and extended family. You have to go and provide, and like, typically 2 weeks paternity leave, and then you're back to the grind. And then at the same time, you then have to manage all of that. You then have to ensure that your home's in the right place. You have to do that. And a lot of the time, naturally, if we're being honest, how many times would men come and have a conversation and be like, oh, how are you managing to do everything at the moment? Oh, I'm not managing too tough. It's a bit hard, but I'll get over it. We don't really talk about things. We end up talking about United and Chelsea and how Ollie's messing up, or how Frank's messing up and everything. And that's a release, but there's so many underlying issues that we don't unearth. And that's why a lot of the time, when people, especially from what I see within our communities, get older and they start to unearth their trauma, it's really traumatic for them, because it's stuff that they've decided not to touch for a long time. Yeah. And then they finally ask questions about why things happen, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's scathing for them. And I just feel that we should normalize having difficult conversations, even if it's with friends, family, because I always have a saying, get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's the only way that you can find growth. So no, it is important. But in terms of being a father and being different, I've even said, that sounds controversial to a lot of people, but I wouldn't impose a team on him. It's like, the way I see it is, there's so many opportunities to do things different and let him grow and everything. And it's like, everyone knows me of being football, athletics, man. It's like, I'm not even going to make that upon him. If he wants to do that, it's great. I might sign him up for some lessons and everything. But if he turned around and said, I wanted to go and do tennis, like, we would do that. I'm not going to force him down any path, or etc. Because they, as much as they're not human beings and they don't have like that cognitive ability to side things in principle and everything, they are like, they do to a certain extent know what they're doing, and they do have to go through their own process as well. But that's something I've definitely learned this year. So it'll be interesting in the next few years when he gets to kind of the age that yours is, to see how he develops as a young man, to be honest.
What I would say to you, man, sleep now, prepare your mind, because seriously, my son is 3 in January, going on 13. Literally, he can talk so well. And I took him football training 2 weeks ago. He wasn't interested. And then after 20 minutes, he saw the kids running about, so he joined in, and then he started. And I'm with you on that, man, because, so when you said about your father and stuff, not to go into it as well, but my dad wasn't about as well, so it was always on coach and stuff. that's why I support Man United, because my uncle supported Man United. He took me to games when I was younger. Most Nigerians support Arsenal, and we all know why. We all know why, because of Kanu.
Yeah.
And if any Nigerian tells you different, they're lying. How you doing, Tony? Thanks for watching, my friend. So I hear that and I agree with you, man, and I salute you, bro, because and that's why, like, I message you, just check in, bro, because that's one thing I've noticed. It's not around is the social network of someone that understands what you're doing. Because as soon as I saw your picture of your son, and I was like, beautiful, bro. Then it clicked with me. No one messaged me when I was going through. It was just like a little to say, how far are you doing? Do you know what I mean?
No, hey, and for me, it's a lot of people that kind of know me, like, I think they always question, okay, how does everything piece together? Because if you were to see me in terms of social media and everything, you would see that I'm doing content, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But my social media life and my private life are very, very separate. And it's always been like that. Even when I was playing football, a lot of people didn't know that I was doing certain things. Or when I was running athletics and trying to get into like certain teams, people didn't know, because I've always kept sort of like what people see and what people know to be separate. So even with my little one, a lot of people up until now still don't know if I've had a little one, or a lot of people, it was kind of like, once he was here, by the way, guys, this is what's happened. This is why you've not seen my missus and everything. And it's like, oh my gosh, wow. Like, how have you managed to keep the wraps when you do all this? For me, I enjoy keeping it separate, because I feel like once you put that stuff in there, especially the way the world is today, I feel like you have to be sort of careful with the energy that you bring around you. And we spoke about it in terms of like, you can have things on like all of these internet things where suddenly you're just engrossed in this thing where people are like, oh yeah, we don't agree with your opinions, this is that. I don't need my family or personal life to be a part of that, so that can stay over there and then this can stay over there. But no, you're right. I feel like I'm grateful to God that I've got really close friends, a really close network that kind of understand it and understand that, okay, you know what, especially in a time like this, even if you don't have a child, I think in a time like this in the world, everyone needs a check-in. And I do go out of my way to make sure that I check in people around me, because everyone's circumstance is relevant to them, right? Like some people won't have a child or anything, but they're going through their own stuff and they need someone to kind of be like, oh, how's everything going? And sometimes you may not even want to talk about how it's going, but because you acknowledge that someone said that, you're like, okay, you know what, someone does care. And like, I've had a few friends that have appreciated that a lot, especially in this time, because I mean, people have lost jobs, people have lost family members, people have been unsure. That uncertainty of when things are going to happen, that then leads to anxiety, which we're talking about in terms of mental space. Anxiety and our sort of culture is something that's not discussed at all. It's like, what do you mean you're anxious? Sort of thing. Like those things, those narratives are not discussed at all, but these are things that do affect us. And it's important that, we can be there for each other and discuss them.
And then, so this is another Stoppage Time TV saying that's a great segue with this comment to go on to brother Benji. Now, we have a mutual friend. Obviously, connection, Nigerian. This is how it is. Anyone that's watching back, please like and subscribe. And just to let you know that Nigerians are everywhere. Trust me. Literally. We are survivors. So, I mean, Benji, okay. Stoppage Time TV. All the content you're doing, verses and stuff. What's the connection? How did it start? Tell us.
So for me, it's really interesting to take you down memory lane, but not to make it too sort of. For me, I've always kind of commented about football, whether or not knowing that my destiny was almost to go down this path. So back as early when I was in secondary school, I would write long form sort of summaries of paragraphs on Facebook about football. And before like Twitter was massive on all these sort of things, I would write stuff on Facebook and there'll be like hundreds of likes on football and stuff like that. Like this was like back then. Before the whole social media thing with Twitter and everything, I was never really into it. I kind of had a low profile, but I would always discuss it with friends. I would always be in the barbershop and discuss football. I would always orchestrate conversation with people. And naturally, not just football, but I love having conversations. I love making things not about myself. So I can talk about myself, but I can speak with others and everything and understand and get key parts and have a real organic conversation.
That's what you call hosting skills. Just like
exactly. So what happened was when I was in uni, me and Ben know each other through a few mates that I went to secondary school with that know him because they go to the same church and everything. One of my mates and I were talking about setting up a podcast. And then I was like, you know what, I've got a really good United fan who's Benji, who was interested in doing some stuff. My mate Denzel was a Liverpool fan and he had a friend that was an Arsenal fan. So we started this initial podcast called Full Time. So we would record it at my friend's house, like we would post it out on ourselves. And for me, that was almost like practice hours. We did like 100 odd episodes and everything, had like guests come on, did spin-off shows and everything.
Oh, brilliant.
So I was doing that. And at the same time, I consume American sports casually. I wouldn't say like I'm a big fan of anything. I consume stuff casually, but I'm more there for the commentary and the discussion as opposed to the actual sport. And one thing I always noticed about what happened there and their society is they are very conversational. It's not black and white. It's not suits. It's literally what you see is what you get. And I always had this vision that the UK could become that because whatever happens over there happens over here. Eventually, it's just about are you involved at the right time. So I always thought, you know what, I could do stuff like that here. And gradually, Full Time was almost like a platform for that. And then Stoppage Time came through almost like for a casting call, and then that just got bigger and bigger. But and naturally, just through sort of like writing and doing things, opportunities will come up. So Versus, ironically, actually started before I was Full Time. I was just freelancing, casually writing. And then at one event, it was Adidas. They'll open up their flagship store. And it was like, there's an opportunity to talk to Ruben Loftus-Cheek. And it was like, okay, cool, I'll do that. And we sat down there for probably about 30 minutes. And it wasn't like a BT sort of, how did you play? It was literally, let's have a conversation. So we had a really nice conversation about his upbringing and everything. We put that out next day, every single newspaper, everywhere, taking different quotes on Twitter, loads of Chelsea fan accounts, quote.
Wow.
And it was at that moment, I think, the Versus who I wrote for were like, well, there's a way of doing things here. They were trying to do it, but there was a way of doing things here. I kind of knew, well, this is proof that this works. It was just about navigating more of a lane out of it. So that's how the content and me meeting Benji and everything started. It was just noting that we can do something different. We can be a voice. And the key thing is, like, we know football. We've been playing football on the corners for like since we grew up. We've watched the Sky Sports. At the same time, we've had the benefit of speaking to our uncles and having their perspective. And so a lot of people, especially a lot of people from our culture, from like our backgrounds and everything, when they speak about football or consume football, it's not just linear about the TV. There's so many different influences. You play football influence, your uncle's influence, barbershop influence, discuss football in church influence. Like, so we're really well-rounded when it comes to having discussions. Well, most of us are, because some people, their discussions are very linear, but we don't have to go into that. But that's how it started for me. And now it's almost about, it's just being in a space where I can help others sort of do that. I can continue to try and do what I believe my mission is, to sort of try and carve out this sort of stuff. And
amen.
God willing, see how it goes, man. See how it goes. I feel like a lot of people are acknowledging, and a lot of people have been doing stuff. Like if you look at like the poets and all these people, they founded this world of speaking online. For me, like the speaking online thing, I didn't even know it was a thing. Like I knew that having conversations differently was, but you see these guys, they've literally paved the way that online is a platform. And it's like, wow, that's crazy. Like we only used to think it was TV, and they've made that possible. So it's just about, in my own way, what sort of legacy can I leave in terms of what I do.
God bless you for that, man. God bless you for that.
You
know how we're talking about, you mentioned society and obviously creating something different, which you are doing. Racism, okay? I don't know many, well, I do now, obviously, because I've jumped on YouTube online, but I didn't know many black content creators. I didn't know many black journalists. You know, like you said, we play ball, we watch Sky TV. I mean, let's be honest, when we were growing up, the black guy we saw was Trevor Nelson. Sorry, not Trevor Nelson, Trevor McDonald, sorry. On ITV News. And then, I mean, Lenny Henry at a push. And then the black footballers. And you know yourself, you get the same guy interviewing the players, and it was the same question. No player would actually answer the question. It would be the robotic answers. And there wasn't enough representation in general, and there's not enough, sadly, in 2020, representation in most aspects and fields of careers. Media, when I say media now, there is a slight contrast. We're seeing Micah Richards, Alex Scott. There's this black girl who does it on Sky Sports. Thank you very much. Yeah. And now on the social side, we're seeing Chunks, we're seeing Philly, and I laugh because we are entertaining. You know, at the barbershop, at the church. When someone says something lineal or, you know, ridiculous, we laugh and we change it into a joke, and we contrast our conversation. So we've always been entertaining. Some may say that Nigerians are loud. Yes, but we're entertaining. And I just think that, like, for you going into this profession and this field, in the back of your mind, as a black man, always, racism is always there, discrimination is always there. One, have you had any episodes or scenarios where you have been discriminated against racially? Two, what is your thoughts on everything this year? And I'm talking from, you can broaden it to BLM, you can broaden it, or just conclude it to your own thoughts.
So the first one, of course, I think it's
do you not think that's sad, though, Mayowa? It's sad when you say
it is. It really is. It really is. It really is. But one of the things that I would also say to rebuttal that is, I do hear of people when you ask them that question, they say, "No, I've never." And for me, it's kind of like, that's great, and I hope you never do. For me, without putting shade in the area, because the things a lot better now. I grew up in Southeast London next to, I was born in West, but I grew up in Southeast next to Mayowa. So I've seen a lot of stuff in my life. Let's put it that way.
So where are we talking? Because before I moved to Scotland, I lived Waterloo. That's where I lived.
Okay, so I was Southeast.
So that's very, very central, to be honest. I was SE1.
Yeah, so I grew up SE16. So Mayowa Stadium was here. I was literally here. I went to school in Peckham, but literally I grew up in Mayowa. So those who know Mayowa's history are aware of what sort of environment that could have been like. And so I saw a lot going to school and everything, going into estates where you walk in and there's England flags everywhere. I saw a lot basically. So it is unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. In terms of everything I've seen this year, though, what for me it stood out is we've seen the biggest civil movement forever. This has been the biggest civil movement that's ever happened, where people have sort of said, you know what, globally as a mass, this can't happen anymore. And for the first time, it's almost like everyone's taken it upon to be their personal business, because I'm a firm believer that if one person does something and they empower 10 people to do something, they empower another people. But one person doing something, you can end up reaching 500 people if people are bothered. That's how I see things. And I feel like this year, everyone said, in my personal environment, I'm going to make sure that I say what I believe is right and do what's right. Therefore, I can have an effect. And that's not just black people. That's the strong use of allyship is what people saying that, you know what, I may not understand the scenario, the situation, or what's happened to you, but I can appreciate what's right and what's wrong, and I can appreciate that there's education that needs to be done on my side and by people around me. Therefore, I am going to spread this message. I am going to stand with you. And I think there's real power in that, because humans are creatures of habit, right? And nature. Essentially, we will listen to and do things with people who are like us because we feel comfortable. So if we're trying to portray powerful messages and they're coming for us, that is amazing. But at the same time, we need people that understand it and may not be us to then pass those messages on as well to people that are like them. Because that's how it is. I mean, I remember growing up and playing football and everything, and I was like, there's loads of issues and everything. I met some guys from up north and from Teesside, and they'll tell me how rough it is there and everything, and how like child poverty and everything in those parts of England is crazy. And for me, being from London, being from urban area and everything, you hear this about stuff, and it's like, how could it be like up there? I can't appreciate that because I'm not them, but it was like, okay, I understand that that's bad, and therefore I was able to talk about that in rooms and say like, okay, we need to do stuff that, football programs that helps that part of the country that empowers.
Yeah.
It's not the same as racism, but the same principle of, if you don't have to feel it to understand it, you don't have to experience it to know that it's right or wrong. And just to say this year has been really mind-opening, because loads of people have just really come out and been like, this is wrong. People are protesting. People are, doing power moves. People are trying to educate people. And don't get me wrong, not everyone is going to be a protester. Not everyone is going to be frontline. Not everyone's going to be this or that. But everyone in some way, shape or form or capacity can do something to make sure that each day we're getting closer to a place where being Black is not at a detriment. Being Black is not seen as negative. Being Black, you are equal, have equal opportunities to your white counterparts, because that's all we're asking for. We're just asking to receive the same treatment as everyone else. And sometimes when you dumb it down to, well, not dumb it down, but for lack of a better term, when you break it down to that simplicity, you kind of think about how sad it is. I just want to be treated the same way you are at work.
Exactly.
Leisurely. Exactly. I just want to be treated the same. I don't want to have to feel like if someone sees me, they have to cross the road. Or if my hair is out, it's unprofessional. But if your hair is out, it's kind of like you've got edge to it. I just want to be treated the same. But hopefully with our generation doing a lot, the generations after us who are very engaged with everything that's going on, hopefully we can get to a closer place where that stuff becomes a reality.
And amen to that. And I can't agree with everything you say. And to be honest, bro, as your older brother, man, I'm proud of you, man. Just like the way you said that. I hate to hear you. Seriously, man, like that was powerful. Seriously, it was powerful. It was really emotional because it's very sad that the conversation we had when we were young, we are now having the conversations when we're young men, and it just shows you what has stalled and what needs to be moved. And I don't want to run a. Oh man, bro, Mayo, that was nice, man. That was powerful, bro. Seriously, bro.
Nah, appreciate it a lot, bro.
Just to conclude on the racism topic, when we talk about government, right? I don't really have any affiliation to them because I see it as, what have you done for me? You don't do anything for my community and stuff. Do you think there is a change? Now, let me flip it, right? So up in Scotland, I meet with like politicians and stuff like that and councils and stuff, right? And I asked them a question, okay? And I said, what do you do for the BAME community? And bro, I've said this before, I hate that word, the BAME, because if me and you are being touted by police, they don't say that, they say Black. Do you know what I'm trying to say to you?
A BAME person doesn't exist. There's not a person who is Black, Asian, man, and ethnic. It doesn't exist. So to group everyone as one, I always said it's for statistical purposes. I think it's a really nasty way of doing things. Like a BAME person doesn't exist. They're Black or they're Asian, or they might be both, but they're not. No one's a BAME person.
Yeah. So for particular PC, let's just say BAME, okay? And I'm like, flipping out, So I said to them, I was like, so what do you do to create awareness for the people of BAME? And, they weren't really, it wasn't the most warming reception to that answer. So I asked them a question and said, okay, let me flip it. And I said to them, you're all white, correct? And they said, yeah. So I said to them, if you decide not to cook, what do you do? And they all said, oh, we order a takeaway. So I said, okay, what cuisine do you pick to order? And they're like, well, Bobby, sometimes Thai, Chinese. And then I was like, Indian, Pakistan food. And they're like, yeah. I was like, oh, Caribbean. And they're like, yeah. And I was like, oh, you do have Africans, right? And they're like, yeah. Who do you think cooks these foods? Right? And they all looked at me and I said, so you can't say you're not aware of these communities. Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you? Because they only acknowledge, without them even knowing that, they're only acknowledging these communities on their own agenda. Yeah. They're hungry. And you know, that little flip, it changes people. And you said something there. If you can change 10 people's attitudes, and then they can go and change. Do you know what I mean? Other people. So, no, seriously, man, that like what you're saying there is fantastic, and it's good to hear, and it's good to see as well, because, you know, we're all in this together, man. Seriously, this fight for equality. And it's crazy that it's still happening in 2020. So, to more enlighten lighter things, lighter topics, Chelsea Football Club. You're a big fan. And I'm always surprised to see when I see Nigerian Chelsea fans, because I always just thought we had to support Arsenal. You know, it was like you either support Arsenal or Man United. Really, to be honest, I don't know that. Well, actually, I lie. My cousin is a Chelsea fan. So yeah, you're probably the second black guy I know that's a Chelsea fan.
Yeah, for me, it's I was born in West London. Mm-hmm. So literally, because I was born in West London, my mum supported Chelsea, so it was just one of those things where it was kind of like, yeah, well, that's a club, you support Chelsea. So yeah, but I feel like as generations gone on, having Mikel, I don't think Babiara was like a big enough pull to make people Chelsea fans, but I feel like Mikel for a certain time was, and of course when Chelsea were in that period where they were competing and like one of the big powerhouses in Europe, naturally people plugged in and was like, yeah, I'm going to support this team. So I think there's a lot more now. But a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, you're a Chelsea fan. It's like, yeah, I've been a Chelsea fan since I was born, essentially, because my mother, based on where we were, was a Chelsea fan as well. So I literally was kind of born into it in a way. So I've not kind of like just seen loads of money and said, yeah, you know what, I'm going to pick this team. They're going places, which is the case for many people, if we're being honest. Like a lot of people, the same way they're City fans now, a lot of people became Chelsea fans back in the day.
I think that's the year. Is it 2003?
Yeah, 2003, 2004. Yeah, that's when a lot of people decided, ironically, became Chelsea fans.
and like on that, you know, let's touch football. I mean, we're both football men.
Yeah.
You know, this season has been a whirlwind. It's crazy. It's like you can't call it. Bookies probably would have won so much money. People probably would have won a bit of money as well. Do you think order will be restored after New Year? I
feel like we don't know what the new normal is yet. And when you think about like the world, how it is today, it's scary. It is scary because when you've been used to so much for so long, like this is how your life is, you know, a lot of people to now want washing their hands, bro. Like, Bobz, if we're being serious, a lot of people to now didn't realize that you had to wash your hands like properly. That's become a normal thing now, which is great, but it's taken the pandemic to do that. Like, I feel like we're still figuring out what the new normal is. And I'm a person where I tell a lot of people that in life, like we all face tough times, but I always feel like on one hand, you've got challenges, on the other hand, you've got opportunities, and it's based on how you see it. In this time where we're figuring out the new normal, loads of people are going to have business ideas at work. Loads of people are going to find opportunities to do stuff. Loads of people are going to figure out that with this new normal, I can reinvent myself, etc., which is great, which is fantastic. But it is going to take some getting used to. Like, I don't feel like we're going to snap our fingers and go back to where we were. I feel like, especially with everything that's going on, we have to we're going to have to live through it to a certain extent. It's not just going to disappear. We're not just going to be in a situation where it's like, okay, back to, because it started at the end of 2019. So back to the end of 2018, for example, we're going to go back. We're not going to go back. So it'll be interesting to see how everyone adjusts to that, really.
Can you see Beaks' corn?
That Beaks is funny.
It's funny though, because people have been dirty. How can they take a pandemic for people to wash their hands? Ha ha ha. You know what, bro? I'm not gonna lie to you. Do you know when I used to go to football games?
Yeah.
There was always a queue to go toilet. There was never a queue to wash the hands.
Even on a night out. How many you see a queue for urinal, but you won't see a queue for the washing the hands or the hand paper or anything. And then you go back out and then people are handling glasses and everything, and it's like there's not a hand gel or hand sanitizer in sight.
Bro.
And we lived like this for so long. Not we, because I wasn't part of the washing hand stuff, but we live in a society where we didn't have like hand sanitizer and stuff like that out. Or if you carried hand sanitizer with you, like the man then probably looks like, why you got this little scented, why you got this little strawberry flavored thing like with you? The reality is we're in a situation where that's normal now. Like if you go out and you haven't got hand sanitizer, it's like, what are you doing? If you go out and you haven't got a mask, it's like, hold on, you haven't got a mask? Like it's all of these things are becoming the new norm, and there's so many more things that are going to become reality for us that we don't know yet, because we don't know how this is all going to unfold. But it's interesting to see how it all pans out.
Yeah, no, that's good, man. That's good. So my next question for you is, man, what's next for you? I mean, what's the dream? Because obviously, from what you're talking, you know, you're living it, family. You know, you're being able to bond with your son. You're writing content. You know, I feel like this year has, you know, you've found a way to maneuver a positive and a shining light on this year. You know, is that him?
Yeah, that's him up there somewhere. Probably called me. For me, like honestly, this year I always find it like difficult to talk about because I'm very conscious about how the year has been for everyone, and like God willingly, unfortunately, I've managed to have a year where so much has gone right, but at the same time, I'm appreciative of how things could have gone wrong, and how things have not been right for everyone, and how I need to help people, etc. So for me, the pandemic actually allowed me to transition into kind of the space I always wanted to be in. I had to take some risks with it, but kind of left my graduate scheme, then turned job to then go into this place where I'm now within the sports media world, which is for me amazing. It's exciting because a lot of people say stuff and have comments and be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, or do you do this full time? Not knowing that you're working from 8 to 7 and then you're doing stuff afterwards, and then you've got a baby on the way. And if people don't see that side, they just see the content. It's like, oh, you guys are going to blow, or Stoppage Time's going to be amazing. Oh man, we're going to do this. It's like, you guys are not seeing the side of it where it's like, I just want to stop now. The hustle, exactly. So I'm in a situation now where the hustle is kind of, I can be more engrossed in it, which is amazing. For me, I'll be honest, the dream for me is to be a part of a media space and help create a media space where one, people can be themselves, two, it's representative of where it should be. Like if you look at the Premier League, 33% of the players are black, but if you look at the media space, it's nowhere near that. And you have to ask yourself, it's not because we don't have the ability to, it's about the access to having it. I remember when, before sort of media almost became this sort of path that was bestowed onto me, I wanted to work in football in very different aspects, and I would never find any jobs online because the way the football career industry is, it's very sort of, who do you know, sort of, okay, listen, we've got a job here, we give it to your mate, etc. And that's why when you look at the boards in FIFA, they're all same friendship group, same upbringing and everything. They're not very diverse. And it takes a while for these things to become diverse. And especially when people don't understand what diverse is. So for example, randomly, I could be appointed on a board tomorrow. They could then go from having 9 white males to having 9 white males and 1 black guy. In their head, it's, okay, we're diverse now. When it's like, no, you're not diverse because you're not representative of the sport that you're catering to, or society. Exactly. That's number one. 2, even if you think you've added a bit of diversity, how inclusive of it is it if I can't give my feedback or speak on my experiences without thinking, you know what, I'm not going to be heard, or even if I do speak about it, I'm not heard. There's no inclusion. So we don't end up going anywhere. I'm just there almost as a token figure. So, yeah, my dream is to help sort of carve that and just kind of help people realize that, you know what, you can do stuff. I've been very fortunate, like I'll say it again, it's all God. Like I've been very fortunate. I've been in situations where opportunities have been presented to myself and I've said, okay, you know what, how about this person? Or how about this person? Because another thing is, I know what it's like to be on the other hand where people give you opportunity and help you sort of make a foot forward. I also know what it's like when people have ways of sort of enabling you to go further, but they're closing the doors because they feel like it's competition. And don't get me wrong, in life there's competitive nature. I'm one of those people. I totally accept that. And I play football. Like I'm a skipper by nature. Like I want to win. But within spaces, loads of people can coexist. Like loads of things can happen. We're stronger as one. And literally, I've been so fortunate that there's been so many things where I've been able to, even if I can't help connect, I've been able to say, listen, if you go and ask a question over there, this is what you may get answered with. This is how you navigate and thing. And what that does is, hopefully, those people then think that, okay, if that was done for me, I can do that for someone else. And 100%. I say this now, I am nothing within this. Like people say a lot of stuff. I am nowhere near where I want to be. I'm nowhere near where people need me to be as well. But I feel like that is, again, it's a testament to what you can do. Like even if you feel like you don't have power, you do have some sort of power. You can do something. So that's been a big pushing force for me. I just generally want people to be able to create what they want to create. I want us to be able to control our own narratives, control our stories. And that's why I'm thankful to the two other guys I hope Stoppage time with, because what we've got there is a natural connection that really works. So I essentially, no, it's honestly, it's a blessing. You've got Cam who, Cam is Cam. He's very analytical and he's very cutthroat with how he delivers things. So you either like it, you don't like it. You've got Fuad who's very a similar mold, not as left of field as Cam, but he represents for me what a fan is. Fuad is a fanatic of football. So when it comes to speaking about Spurs, when it's up, it's up. When it's down, it's down. He's fanatical about it. Cam's more of an analytical man. And then you've got me who can kind of float between, but enjoys having conversations about things. And I feel like our dynamic there represents a lot of group chats up and down the country. It represents a lot of friendship groups up and down the country. And 100%. That's the content that we want to see. Like, don't get me wrong. We grew up on Sky Sports. We grew up on all of these things. Yes, it's good. Yes, we thought it was great and everything, but it's coming to a time now where it's not representative of how we feel. And the thing is, there's a world that these things can coexist. You can have that and have a Stoppage time next to it. You can have a Monday Night Football and have some of the shows we see online, but we have to keep going. And one thing you mentioned earlier was social spaces. And the great thing about social spaces is it's allowed us to have our own narratives and have our own communities where we don't have to go to these media platforms anymore. Literally, I can go into football Twitter now and there's loads of podcasts that I can get lost into because it's like, you know, we have a community of ourselves where we've built communities for ourselves, which is amazing. But the next step for that now is our stories, our voices, our personalities can appeal to the masses because I've seen in music, they love us. They love us. Yeah. Like they may act like they don't, or things may like seem like they don't, but they love the way we talk. They love our hustle. They love everything about us. So this can transcend. You don't have to look further than Chunks and Philly to see that people really love the culture that we come from. So therefore, everything we're doing now, which may be low production, innovative, and from our own pocket and within our own homes, we can take that to a bigger scale. So that is what I want to try and be a mission of, not just for myself, but for people around me. That's the mission, I believe, for myself.
And God willing, bro, it will happen. Amen. It's your portion, man. Seriously, because I
appreciate it.
The reason I listen to Stoppage Time TV is because, like I said off air, you know, it's nice to listen to three people that talk like me.
Yeah.
Give or take the accent, it's not a Scottish accent, but you know,
it's the same sort of vibe. It's like, no one's reading from auto cue. Yeah,
and it's like, it's not like you said. We grew up on Sky Sports, man. It's not like right. Charlie Nicholas. You know, what do you think? You know what I'm trying to say? Flipping whoever, man, Paul Merson and all that. Do you know what I mean? That talk same thing, same phrases about different players. And do you know, you said something about Cam, and I think you all three are, and this is a compliment to you guys. You're analytical, you're analysts, and if you deep Sky Sports, right, when some of these guys on Soccer Saturday or whatever, when they watch midweek games, and they talk about players and they say certain things, I can't help think you're waffling. Like, you don't watch this player. Like, how can you say that? You obviously don't watch him. And it's nice that, you know, you guys watch football. And like you said it earlier, you know, we've watched ball. We conversate about ball. There's church aspects, church groups, the social groups, man them, your house, the barber shop. Do you know what I mean? So we're always hearing different opinions.
Yeah.
So when we grew up on Sky Sports, from when I hear that, I'm like, okay, yeah, I actually might stop watching you guys because now I'm like, I'm not feeling it. You know,
do you know something I've learned though with this content stuff? Like, and I'll be honest with you, I've learned, and I think it's what gives me peace at night, and that's why I think when people are like, oh, but this one's saying this and that, why are you not so consumed with it? What gives me peace at my peace of mind at night is that I know that not everyone is going to like what I do or what we do. And that's okay, because at the end of the day, content is subjective. This person, it's like music. This person might think it's amazing. This person might think it's rubbish. Like that's natural. Like if people feel like what we're doing is rubbish, that's fine. But a lot of people say the show itself is amazing. Like, but you can't really prove facts on anything, if you get where I'm coming from. Like, people just look and be like, I like it, I don't like it. But what stands out for me in all of it is that it's real. Yes. And I'm a real believer of the real and real content and real conversations. And like, if you like people that watch Stoppage Time, they'll be like, oh, so how did this happen? It's like, listen, we get there, we switch the camera on and we just go. A lot of the content I try to do, we just go. And I just feel like we can, in the UK, can continue to go to that space if things are done. I mean, I've said it before, and it's probably on record somewhere, but there's been times where I've been at events and I've been like near Troy Dean or something like that, or I'll be speaking to him, and he said openly, if I saw more people that were like me in the tunnel or in the press room, in the presses and everything, I'm more likely to have an organic conversation because I know that you understand me and what I'm saying to you is not going to be looked at with a certain scope. Yes. So that's why people like JD, I was mentioning like people earlier, but someone like JD, for me, I have a lot of respect for, because what he's managed to do, whether people like him or not, is he is a young black face in these rooms that tend to be not black people, and he's able to conversate with players in a way that people don't, simply because there's a relatability about him. There's people can look at him and be like, okay, you know what? If I speak about slang, I'm not going to be judged with you because you understand that. If I want to have a joke mid-conversation, you understand that because that's probably the way you talk. And for me, it's so important. Like I said, 33% Premier League ballers are black. The media space doesn't represent that at all. Your officials don't. Your managers, it's been, 9 black managers in the Premier League? 33% of the players, okay, there's not that much relatability there. I remember a while ago, it was Derby County, I believe. There was a comment made on radio, and it was essentially describing the players, the black players, in a certain way. And it was like, this has happened because of over familiarity and people that are, you know, in these rooms talking to each other, thinking that it's normal to say that, but because they've not been around black people or black coaches or black players and everything, they feel like it's okay. And then it just breeds this sort of comfortability that you can just say something. And it's like, it's wrong. Someone's just mentioned Islamophobia. It's the same thing as well. Like, look at some of the biggest football stars in the world practice Islam. They practice Islam really well. They're really vocal about how religion is really different. They do a lot of charitable things. But what is the lens that's put on them? All the negative stuff, the extreme stuff, the extreme side of stuff, which is, that's nothing to do with them. And everyone in the world would say that that's wrong. But because that is there, we're just going to group everything together. Because Raheem Sterling's from Northwest London, anything that happens, we're going to group it to gang violence. A lot of stuff is done like that. But when you don't have people from different backgrounds, again, like I said, the diversity and inclusive thing, nothing really changes. Like, I'll use an example. The BBC probably have a lot of black people that work in that building. They probably have a lot of people from different cultures that work in the building, which is great. But how included are they in decisions? Can they come to you in a meeting and say that, oh, you can't use the N-word on a radio thing because it's going to offend people like me? Are they included enough to have those conversations? And that's what needs to be worked on. Not just have people that are different, but empower them to have these conversations.
Thanks for your comments, Samuel, man. Shame about your club. Bro, you're doing good work. Thank you very much, bro. We're trying. So, look, you know, Mayowa, we're at 55 minutes, man. It's been a pleasure listening to you, man.
No, it's been a pleasure.
I want to ask you a question, you know, like, obviously we spoke about what I do and stuff, what I'm trying to do up here and stuff. I've got to ask, though, you must get approached quite a lot to do stuff. And please tell me if you don't or not. I'm just thinking, you know, because when I reached out to you, you said something about Troy Deeney.
Yeah.
If he saw more people like you, he'd feel accustomed. So, like, I'll be honest with you, the fact I knew you were Nigerian, I automatically changed my approach when I spoke to you. Because there's a thing, it's like a comfortability. And like for people that are watching and people that watch this back, let me give you an example. If I go to a car dealership and I see a black guy and an Asian guy and a white guy, I'm likely to go towards the black guy. Not because I'm racist. I'm not racist at all. No, but there's a good chance that me and this guy are going to be able to crack jokes and relate. And that's just how it is, you know. Sam, thanks for your cool chat, man. Cool chat. I mean, thanks for the message, bro. Big up to yourself as well. So see, when I messaged you, all jokes aside, what were you initially thinking?
No, when I saw it, I was like, yeah, now this guy, he knows, like, he gets it. Because for me, a lot of people know that I'm Nigerian.
Yeah.
But they won't kind of home into the fact that I'm Nigerian. Therefore, when you've got someone that understands you, it's like, okay, you know what, that's cool and everything. Like I appreciate that you know, you actually understand like my heritage and everything.
Yeah.
And it's just normal. Like, I mean, there'll be certain things where presenters, obviously, I know of presenters that are able to break the ice with people because they can speak about things that someone else might not totally understand.
Yeah.
Like, and there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like what needs to happen more is that it just needs to be a bit more evident. And what I want to make clear here is I'm not saying that because there's 33% black players in the Premier League, we should have all black journalists, so you know, we can just interview them and everything. That's not where we want to go. We want to be in a situation where everyone's comfortable with everyone. But if something's been the same for so long, it goes back. It's actually probably a nice circle to what I said about equal opportunity. If I had to do a survey, a lot of black footballers would probably say they've not had an equal opportunity to speak about how they want to speak because they are afraid that the media will not understand them and perceive it to be in a different way. A prime example, Jack Grealish, everyone just throw him on the bus. I think he's had situations where he's had 4 driving offences this year and everything. If we were to flip that to any black player you chose, I believe it would be reported very differently. Very, very differently. The prime example about the whole housing thing, when it was Raheem Sterling called it out, which I thought was amazing from him. Phil Foden, when it's him, he buys a lovely family home for his family. When it's Tusney, who's at Fulham at the moment, footballer blows the bag on house. And it's like, okay, this is the same sort of article within 2 weeks, but the lens in it is completely different.
Casual racism.
So I would, it's the microaggressions, the subtle undertones that people are doing because they don't understand people, they don't communicate with people, and it's become secondary nature because within their communities or groups, this is just how things are discussed now. Like, that's it. It's like loads of people would say, if you're wearing a hoodie, that's why when I tweeted the most recent thing about Carlton Cole, I put "wannabe gangster" there because one of the comments we got once when we did something was, look at these 3 black boys wearing hoodies to talk about football. They just want to be gangsters. And I found it hilarious.
What?
I found it really funny because it was like, that is so funny. Like, most of the content I've done this year that's really picked up and been well, I've been at home in a hoodie and a do-rag and people have liked it. Like, companies have looked at it and stuff. And it's like, so it's really ironic that you see all 3 of us. I'm wearing a hoodie. someone's actually dressed kind of decent because Fuad likes to dress up for recording our stream, and then you've got Cam, and it's like, oh, it's 3 wannabe gangsters. I found it hilarious. So yeah, it's
But that's the language we're talking about, though, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
And also the confidence people have to say stuff like that. You know, and without having to think twice. Oh, I shouldn't say that. People are comfortable in saying that, and you know, man, like on what you said is very powerful, and I hope people that do watch this have gotten like an insight into you, you know, and as you see that, you know, what they do see, it's not just wake up and boom, you know, there's like a lot of grinding, a lot of thinking, you know, family as well, and I don't care what anyone says, until you have a child, man, and you watch your partner or your wife give birth, bro.
It's a different feeling, man.
You know what I mean?
It's a different feeling.
No
it wakes up a different side of you that you didn't know.
Yeah, bro. No one can chat to you about anything. And priorities. Sorry, there's a comment here from Beaks. Unfortunately, the media will always win because even if we are trying to put an end to it, we are speaking about it and it's making the history, making their story relevant. But regardless, we will keep speaking out our mind. So on that, Beats Corner, if you're watching, guys, please subscribe to my guy. Great content every Monday. Check him out. Great comment, Beaks. And do you know what, Mayowa? To add to that, right? That's why I'm doing what I'm doing now. Okay? Because there's a comment for you.
That's too funny.
But yeah, because like, man, like I don't really want to talk about myself because this is about you today. But like, you know,
no, go for it, bro.
It's just to highlight that, like, you know, people say to me, "Oh, why are you going to talk about racism and stuff?" And it's like, I'm like, why don't you talk about racism? You know,
I feel like the easiest answer is, like, I think we both probably have similarities there. Is we want a world where our kids don't have to experience what we've experienced.
Exactly.
That's the straightforward answer. I don't want my child to feel like when he's walking up and down in the road that he has to cross the road because there's a white lady that might look at him and be intimidated. Therefore, he has to then inconvenience himself to try and make someone else feel comfortable. And it's funny you mentioned, it's almost circling back to that conversation we had earlier when we were talking about things that are not discussed. I randomly asked one of my mates, or a few of my mates once, and I was like, do you feel tired at work because you have to do certain things to make everyone else feel comfortable? And they were like, yeah, I feel like I have to tone myself down, or I can't be my true self, or I've got to kind of go to like drink socials and stuff like that. And it's like, all of that is part of what we're saying. That's all anxiety, and it's all dealing from, we're trying to kind of make ourselves be in a place where we're not almost intimidating, or we're not aside, we're going into their world. And it's like, well, we should have equal opportunity here. You should have to experience what my world is. I should experience your world is. The world should coexist. I shouldn't have to feel like, oh, I don't drink, but in order to get into good books as a manager, I'm going to go for a bev every Friday. That's not how things should be. And even to a certain extent, people will tell you stuff like, oh, if you don't do this, you're not going to progress in your career and everything. Why has that even become a thing in the first place? You get what I'm coming from?
Culture. And it's a ridiculous culture. And you know, when you're talking about, when you said there about we should be able to experience both things and be fair. I have a friend up here, Marvin Bartley, and he played for Hibs, Hibernian, and he now plays Livingston. He's the captain. He told me something. He said about the conversation of racism, and he was saying, keep doing what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. And he said to me, people I train with and friends with, they were going to go to America for a trip just in the summer. Yeah. Just in the summer, pre George Floyd, or no, after George Floyd, may he rest in peace. And he was like, nah, I don't think it's safe enough. And they were like, you'll be fine. So he said to them, let me ask you a question. Would you trade skin color with me for 2 weeks there? And they all said no. And he said, why? And they all said, oh, we might not be safe. And he was like, but you want me to join you in this trip? do you know exactly? Yeah. When he told me the story, I done the exact same as you did. It's like you laugh because I feel I can't even warrant that with a sentence or words. Yeah. Look, listen, man. I'm going to thank you so much for this, and literally, this is why I'm doing it, because I can't be at every protest. I can't, neither can you. And I just feel that watching you guys, Stoppage Time TV, watching other people, Beats Corner, speaking with Benji, speaking with Sam, people that have commented on today, it's like, there is a voice there. And I feel like we have to use what we can and what we know and speak what we know to get out there. And now, this thing I do, like Bitz N Bobz Meets, is not really to get likes or anything like that. I'm not going to lie to you, bro. I have no interest in making money off YouTube because I have a career. I have a work. Do you know what I mean? This is my way of giving back to say, this is what I've been through. And I want to meet other people and talk about it. Because I look around and there's not enough of us talking about it.
Yeah.
So the more I talk about it, you'll either get bored or you'll start listening.
Yeah.
So I just want to give special thanks, man. Thank you so much for doing this.
No, thanks for having me, man. And what you're doing is, I always say it's amazing. Like, if you can start a conversation in the space, like you're sowing a seed essentially. And if someone comes afterwards and then they water that seed, it might blossom into a tree that has loads of branches. So I'm always a fun believer of like having conversations. It's key. And sometimes the conversations may be uncomfortable. And that's okay. Like, not everything's going to make for easy hearing, even within our own communities. But unless we do these things, we won't move forward and find the answers of what we're trying to find. So no, massive shout out to you for everything you've been doing, the consistency of it, especially when you have a wife and a child. It's not easy. So massive shout out to you, man.
You'll get that, bro. Trust me, man. I'm ready. She's already saying to me, remember, you do have a wife and a child. I'm like, yeah. Don't worry.
I know the feeling.
But I'm very mindful when you say my wife is mixed race. Half Scottish, half Algerian. So she got it as well growing up, So I think that's what makes our bond so special, because she does believe in what I'm doing, but she kind of reminds me, the late hours, just remember.
No, literally, just remember that, some maybe not stream tonight. Let's sit down. He's asleep. Let's watch a bit of TV. Like, let's get some balance. No, I know too well.
Amen to that, bro. As I do with everyone that I say interview, but I want to say meet because we're having a chat.
I'm the same. I call them conversations. I hate the word interview.
Please plug your socials to say where people could find you, and please.
Yeah, no, of course. So Mayowa Quadri, as it's on there, is my Twitter, my personal Twitter, my Instagram. I'm very active on Instagram, so there. I have a podcast called Stoppage Time TV. That is on Twitter and Instagram as well. If you want to check out on YouTube, that is 360 TV on YouTube. Recently had Carlton Cole there, which was amazing. I also do a lot of things, content and editorial writes at Versus. So that's literally Versus VERSUS. Check them out. We're trying to change the lens of football there. A lot of purpose-built content, convergence-built content, and not your typical sort of Sunderland 3, Barnsley 2, not that sort of content. So that's where you can find me. But there's a few exciting things hopefully coming end of this week, next week and stuff. So keep tuned.
Beautiful. And obviously, so what? It's your boy, Bitz N Bobz, with another episode of Bitz N Bobz Meets. Listen, guys, like, subscribe, share. Listen, thank you for watching. If you're going to watch it back, thank you for watching again. And then, Pierre, just be safe, speak to someone, and show some love to the next person, because you never know what they might be going through. 100%.
Great.